really messed up because I set it up and then I thought I hit go live and I went live, but it only went to Instagram and this platform didn't do it. And then by the end of it, I looked down and it still had the button to say go live. So, oops. These things happen. But I don't have to run through the whole thing again. Okay. What I wanted to talk about today was about a couple years ago, I started writing a book just for fun when I was in Hawaii about it's called, I was calling it kind of in my head, the 12 tools for happiness. Turns out that once I got writing, I think I got to like 15 or 16. So definitely not going to call it that. But, and I don't know that I will ever put it out as a book, but I thought what I could do is start putting it out as some of these videos, is teaching some of these tools for happiness that I use and explaining about what those are. So one of the key foundational things, first of all, understand is even what happiness is. And that's what is our goal? What is the goal we're going for? How does our mind work towards that? And so I did a long video on Instagram all about that. I don't have to redo it. But okay, so let's break it down quickly. Okay, basically, when you ask yourself what your goal is, where you're going, like what is the goal? A lot of times we have goals like I want to make more money, I want to buy a jet, I want to buy a yacht, I want to have a family, I want to, create a successful business, I want to be a well-known artist. You have all of these different goals in your mind. But when you ask yourself the why behind that goal, right, you're trying to get to what's your foundational goal? What's behind that goal? Like when people say, oh, I want to be a successful businessman, and then they're a successful businessman, the rest of their life is in shambles, and their wife leaves them, and their kids hate them, right? And then they get to that part of their life, and they're like, wow, did I really miss the mark? What was going on there? So, why? Because they didn't understand their foundational goal. So, the foundational goal behind all of these things that we do is happiness. And whether that is, I want to build a business, right? Why? Because they say if I build this successful business, then people are going to think well of me and I'm going to have lots of money and I'll be able to buy whatever I want that I can enjoy. And, I'll feel good about myself, right? Oh, well, you ask yourself, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to feel good about yourself? Why do you want to be able to buy stuff that you can enjoy? It all is going to get back to this sense of I want to have more happiness and good in my life, and I want to decrease the bad and the pain and the suffering that I feel. So that's the fundamental core of all of the actions that we take. And for some people, a lot of people actually move away from pain more than they move towards pleasure. So they do a lot more stuff to escape pain rather than doing stuff, right? So, like, you take certain things to get rid of a headache instead of living a life in a way that's healthy so that you're constantly feeling good, right? So that's what I mean. There's that little tweak there. And understanding that about yourself, but then also understanding, wait, but really my foundational goal is not just to decrease the pain in my life, it's also to increase the happiness and the pleasure in my life. And people have all different ways of doing that. You may think, well, this person's way of living is better because they're more idealistic, they're out there being a missionary or a volunteer worker, and they're sacrificing themselves for the happiness of others. Well, I mean, I did that work, and even I sat there and I really thought about it. I was like, you know what, it still is a selfish motive. I don't believe in that, because we should be doing what we need to do for ourselves, but it still is a selfish motive in the sense that they're doing that because they get great joy from it, because they have they have an expectation of joy or pleasure, right? So when I was doing volunteer work in Kazakhstan with orphanages, it was a very difficult life. Like we had very simple clothes, we had no money. I mean, you're eating the same thing basically every single day. You had a hot plate plugged in the room to keep you warm. A lot of people crowded into one tiny living space, so it was just like work every day, daily work of all kinds without pay. And why was I doing it, right? I was doing it because for many reasons, right? First of all, I thought that this was the right way to do. I thought that, that was this was happiness, that pleasing God was happiness, but also just the experience of going into these orphanages and seeing the happiness of the helpers and the kids when we brought them food and we brought them clothes and we spent time with them, right? Their joy made me happy as well, right? So I was doing it and sacrificing a lot, but at the same time, there was that sense of joy and fulfillment and completion. So that is what these people are experiencing. There's other people who may sacrifice a lot on earth for this vision of what they're going to get in heaven. Okay, that is another way. But you may say, well, they're look at them, they're sacrificing everything here on earth. But no, they're doing it because they have a vision of this wonderful, pleasurable thing that they're going to get in heaven. Now that gets us to the point that where do we experience all of this? Where do we experience pain and pleasure? It's in our minds. That's where we experience it. It's in our conscious awareness. There is no other place where we experience it. If I had no conscious awareness, I would not be able to experience either pain or pleasure. Understanding that gives us the foundational key to happiness, to understanding what we do, and all the different tools and techniques that I can teach you about happiness is understanding that is where it resides. There is no other place for it. Happiness, to move away from pain and negativity and thoughts that make us depressed or angry or upset, and to move towards things that are more pleasurable and enjoyable, happiness, joy, fulfillment, right? Those things reside in our mind. So understanding that is the key to understanding how you can be in more control of your experience of the world, because your experience of the world is received in one place. It's received in your conscious awareness. And you, as a being, can choose. There are ways in which you can choose to shift your experience of something to something that is more enjoyable and more pleasurable, depending on the interpretations you give it and the story you tell yourself about that. But first of all, getting to the point where you really have it in your core, that understanding, because people get distracted, they don't get the goal right, right? They think this is going to make me happy, so this is my goal. And then they get so focused on the goal itself that they forget the foundational goal is actually bringing them happiness. And they end up doing a lot of things that make them really unhappy because their foundational goal has gotten forgotten in their search for that specific goal, which they originally created because they thought it would make them happy. This happens, this goal shifting thing happens constantly in all of our heads, all the time. And learning to spot that is going to be absolutely key to your psychological well-being and growth. So when you go in there and you say, okay, I created this goal thinking it was going to make me happy. I wanted my own business and I wanted to be free from other people telling me what to do. But now this business has become a weight around my neck, right? I have no time to spend with my children. I have no time to relax, to enjoy my life, to take deep breaths, to walk in nature, right? It's like it's become this thing. It's not making me happy, right? Understanding that, like, wow, okay. So I created this thing, but it actually wasn't really what I wanted. Do I need to drop it, or do I need to understand what makes me happy and then shift the way I engage in that business? Create different processes, bring in other people to manage it. Like, instead of just sticking with that one goal, like, wait, I need to spend more time with my family. That's what makes me happy, right? Having a loving family around me. If I'm totally alienated them, then my business might be really successful, but I have nobody to go home to. So getting really clear that happiness is your foundational goal, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out there, doing volunteer work or in a mission field or wherever that may be. A lot of times we do a lot of things for money, right? And that's because it's just so painful and frankly, comes with death to try to live without any resources, without a way to stay alive, without money, right? So oftentimes we may do a lot of things we don't like in order to get money, in order to survive, in order to decrease that pain of not having money, right? So first of all, we're moving away from pain And then we can begin moving into pleasure. So we're moving out of just basic survival pain mode. And then we can start saying, wait, okay, I'm out of that to some extent. But even within that mode, we can control our experience of it, right? And that's the power when you really understand the experience, that the power is in your mind. That is where all of our experiences reside, our experiences of pain and pleasure. So that's the foundational key that I wanted to share with you before we start getting into and talking about these other techniques. The two foundations are that our fundamental foundational goal for every one of us is to move towards goodness, to move towards pleasure and goodness, to experience more goodness in our life and to experience less pain and unhappiness and of the negative stuff, right? So that's our foundational goal. Even when we think about what's my purpose and I need to fulfill my purpose in the world, why do you want to fulfill your purpose in the world? Why do you want to have purpose? Because you have a sense that that's going to make you feel good to do that, that you're going to feel fulfilled, that you're going to feel happy, that you have achieved something important and that you have fulfilled your purpose and that you have contributed to society, right? When you really dig down into it and you even these like altruistic goals, right? Keep going, keep asking the question, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to do that? You will find that that is there at the core. And just get comfortable with that, get honest with that, and understand that that's what it is. And it's not a selfish thing. It's not like, oh, well, I don't care about others and I'm just going to go do whatever I want because my own happiness is the most important. It's not that at all. It is understanding, like, when you really understand what genuinely makes people happy, it is in fact not that those really selfish things, right? It's that when you understand what's that long-term thing. Like if I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do my own thing and I don't care about what other people in my life need or my family members or whatever. It's just about my happiness, quote unquote, right? Then you may take a lot of actions that hurt people in your life, that alienate you from them, and then you're going to be alone and you're going to be like, oh, well, this isn't what I wanted, this is making me really unhappy. Right? So um both of it is understanding foundationally truly what makes us happy, right? Which is connection, it's love, it's gratitude. It is, yes, it's also like not being in a situation where you don't know how you're going to pay the rent, or buy food for your kids, right? That's a very painful situation to be in. So it's definitely moving away from that kind of pain, but being in a situation where you're really understanding, okay, even these things I do that I think I'm doing for God or for humanity or for whatever, um, they had that as a foundational goal. And um, understanding that things that you may think make you happy don't necessarily make you happy. So you have to be able to be nimble, to keep asking the question, and to look into the future and say, what is going to make me happy in the long run, right? So, for instance, we think about, okay, well, if I eat this piece of cake right now, I'm going to be happy, right? But am I going to be happy in the future when, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling sick, lethargic, I'm diabetic, you see? Then that obviously that piece of cake is not contributing to my long-term well-being and happiness. So I guess I should say that that is really the goal, is long-term well-being, happiness, and making decisions, conscious decisions based on that is the key. And understanding though that even that is still in your mind, it's still in your control. So those are two really key pieces to understanding these tools of happiness. First, recognizing and absorbing into your being where that happiness resides, which is in your conscious awareness. And second, understanding that you do have control over that, over your experience of that, based on the stories you tell and the techniques that I'll teach you. And then also recognizing that this kind of foundational happiness that you're looking for, is something that you have to be nimble on your feet to switch goals. If the goal that you thought was going to do it isn't doing it, and you're like look into the future, you say, wow, okay, this is actually not the best for my long-term happiness, and then maybe it's time to switch that goal. So goal switching. All right, because your brain is unconsciously switching that goal on you all the time, and you have got to take that power back and be like, hold on, brain, I saw you substituted one goal for another goal. I didn't want that. That's not in my best interest. And you got to swap it back. Okay, so you got to take control of your brain, which is like running amok, doing its thing, and be like, you swap that goal out. That wasn't my purpose. That wasn't what I was asking you to do. Swap it back. Okay, and stay focused on what the real goal is. So that's the beginning of this technique. So I will see you tomorrow. Look at that, I made it through another one. Good. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye.